Hello everybody, it's me, Chandler Klebs, and I have about a half an hour before I normally leave for work. It's around 8:30 a.m. on August 23rd right now, and I have a lot of thoughts that I need to get out, and so this is time for another rant, but this is going to be a little bit different because I want to, for the first time, tell the story about me and my art and what happened to my art and what may happen in the future. So here's the thing. Years ago, a few people who used to know me remember that I was heavily into geometric art. Like I used to do it almost every day. Basically, I started out with pixel art using GIMP, and then later on, I was using a Linux computer at the time. I learned to use Inkscape because it was the only type of vector art software that was open source and available on Linux. And I followed the tutorial. I got really good at using Inkscape, and I started doing tessellations of regular polygons, regular triangles, squares, hexagons, that sort of thing, because Inkscape had an amazing feature, the snap ability, which could snap corners of one shape to another and all sorts of amazing stuff. So what happened is I had this inspiration of doing all this art, and I did a lot of stuff. I uploaded stuff to OpenClipArt, DeviantArt.com. I have a gallery there still with 1,000 things. And see, that's the thing is, yeah, I was heavily into it, but then all of a sudden I stopped. And here's what happened it was around that time when I started getting upset about all the evil in the world and all the things people were doing, and then all that other nonsense happened where I cared about all these important issues, and I started recording videos about that. I eventually ended up doing podcasts with that group of people and all of that. But then what happened was I got so depressed, basically because all I was doing was basically arguing with people who are doing awful things and trying to justify all the murder and rape that they do. And I wasn't having any fun. I wasn't enjoying any of it. And after I, had a big problem with certain people, I decided to take a vacation until further notice from doing the podcast like I was. And then just this morning, I started thinking about my art that I used to do. And I started realizing, I was pretty good at doing this art. I should get back into it, And so this morning I worked on some pictures. And I'd forgotten just how much fun it can be to, make these shapes and then give them different colors and arrange them in a certain way. And it doesn't take all that long because, I spent a few years doing it, so I know how to make art fairly quickly. If I have an idea in mind, it's fairly easy. There are some complex things that I did a long time ago that actually took a few hours to do, just because they were some very complex illusions, and I would find stuff online, pictures, and then I would try to draw that. Like there was this one thing called the impossible triangle that I recreated, and it's somewhere on my DeviantArt account. So that's the thing is, there's all this art that I used to do, and so I'm starting to get a little bit back into that because really that's something that I can do that's just me. It doesn't necessarily have to involve other people. If people don't like my art, then big deal, But I was thinking, not only do I enjoy doing this art, but I often wonder if it could be an opportunity for me to make some money. Like I've thought about it, and I realize I have access to more technology than I used to. Back when I was doing art years ago, I had this old, painfully slow Linux computer with like 256 megabytes of RAM. That was how old and slow it was. But there are things that are different now. For one thing, I can record videos of what's going on the screen. And I used that just this morning to record the process of me doing some art. And another thing that I can do is I can use Skype or Google Hangouts to screen share. So if somebody, let's suppose somebody, they had some kind of art that they needed done. Suppose they needed a sign or a logo done. They need some kind of art done, but they didn't want to pay a huge sum of money to somebody who has degrees in graphic design and all that, but they needed some art to get done, and they needed the skills of a nerd like me. And here's the deal. In fact, such a thing once happened. Well, there was this one person. Well, actually, this happened twice. There was a person who found art that I did on DeviantArt and asked my permission to use it and asked what I would charge. And I'm like, well, I mean, I don't mind you using it even for free. But, you know, they wanted to pay me something for it. I guess they just felt that way. I'm like, well, sure, you know, so pay what you think it's worth. So, you know, they paid me a little bit. And then later on, that same person, they had a specific logo in mind that they wanted to do. And so I worked on it. They showed me pictures. It was a long email exchange where they emailed me pictures of something, what they wanted, and then like, so then I come up with something, and I'm like, let's see, how's this? It's like, oh, well, this needs to be rotated this way. Oh, the color of this needs to be changed. And it was a very painful, slow process that probably took at least a week to get it the way they exactly wanted. But then, you know, they paid me for my time working on it. And, you know, that doesn't happen very often. But I thought about how much easier it would be now. Now that I have the ability to use Skype or Google Hangouts and share my screen, rather than having an email conversation, they could just give me direct feedback talking to me the way they wanted it. And so I could show them what I had, you know, and like they're moving over to the right, and then I can like, how far to the right do you need this move, you know? That's just an example. So it would actually take a lot less time now if somebody wanted to hire me for some type of art that they needed done, you know. It could be done. And so that's just something I want to put out there, because if somebody needs some kind of art done, if they need a logo or they need something done, you know, art-wise, you know, that, and they don't have the skills to make it themselves, or they can't afford some graphic designer who's going to charge them hundreds of dollars, well, they could pay me to do it. I could show them the entire process of how I do it as well. And so people will learn how to design these things, but I could also be paid for the time I spend working on people's art. So that's actually a wonderful idea, really. When I think about it, it's absolutely brilliant. So that's an idea I had, you know, because this skill I have doing the geometric art could be useful for something someday. So I just want to put that out there, because it's been so long since I've really done the art that most people don't even know that that's what I used to do. But I abandoned it because I got upset with other things. I got occupied with other things, and I got my job at Hy-Vee, which made me busy. But surely there's got to be some way I could use my art for something, and I don't know what all may arise in the future. So I wanted to talk about this and get my ideas out, partly because to remind me about how much art means to me, but also to let people know that, yeah, I would do art for hire. If I can do what the kind of design you want, then you can pay me for it, and if I can't, no big deal. There are some things I probably can't do. I can't make anything that looks all that realistic. But if it comes to basic polygons, just simple geometric shapes like circles, half circles, triangles, squares, pentagons, hexagons, any of that stuff, yeah, I can probably do it. Just a picture of something else online somewhere, some picture, you know, I can probably do that. Another thing that I can do, probably this will be the last thing I mention, is I can also take old pictures. Like let's say that you've drawn something on paper and then scanned it. It is possible for me to take that scanned image on paper and then vectorize it. That is, basically redraw the lines, or even use Inkscape's feature to trace it so that you can get a much clearer picture and expand it. Because the beauty of Inkscape is that it uses scalable vector graphics, and that means that images once drawn can be resized to any pixel dimension. So this means that, yeah, something that was originally a small drawing on a piece of paper could then be enlarged onto a huge billboard if somebody wanted. And adding text isn't difficult either, because Inkscape lets you use any installed fonts that there are. And I had to install a font once to do that job that other person wanted. So yeah, it's something that's totally doable. It's totally reasonable to think that, yeah, I might get a few odd jobs here and there of people who want me to design art, or maybe they want art lessons. Maybe they want to see how some of the stuff is made in Inkscape. Because Inkscape is not all that hard to use. Sure, it took me a few months to figure it out, but, you know, everything I learned was by trial and error, pretty much. I followed the tutorial, but I could never keep it straight. But just by experimenting with different tools, I did a lot of stuff. So anyway, that's my thoughts for now on the matter. I have to get going for work pretty soon, but I'm hoping to upload this video so that people know about my art and maybe might hire me to do some art for them. So just let me know what you think in the comments below. If you have something in mind that my art might be useful for, or you want me to do something for you. So anyway, thanks for listening. Goodbye.